without having a pretty high, you call it having a high I, just what is it, EQ instead of IQ, just your people skills, being able to take their hand and walk them through what's causing this, paint a picture for them, use visual aids, like I draw it out sometimes. And then you kind of got to help them understand what the full scope of work looks like, get them bought in, and then show them like, hey, this is how we would repair it.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. Today, we got a great show for you. We've got Codi Martin. If you're looking for him on LinkedIn, that's Codi with an I. He's going to talk about getting into business to consumer sales, almost enterprise sales at Foundation Recovery Systems, FRS. He says that excellence is undeniable. We're all on a path, and he's going to talk about his path from small town values through various job experiences, lots of interactions, his path to finding his unique ability. Welcome to the show, and welcome to the Edge of Excellence. Well, Codi Martin, thank you so much for making time to be on the Edge of Excellence. How are you doing today?
I am living the dream, Matt.
Living the dream. All right. Well, we're going to get into that dream that you're living, because that's what the show's all about, talking about what you do and how you got there. I do want to congratulate you. You got Patrick at 18 months, and coming up here in about 6 weeks, you got another kid. And I also want to say congratulations on having the bravery to not know the sex. More power for old school style child rearing. So congratulations on that. We're going to start off the way we always start off. What is your definition of excellence?
I really thought about that the last couple of days getting ready for the podcast. It's tough because true excellence is rare. I think it's something that you really have to witness. It doesn't really do the full justice when somebody just talks about something excellent. But my definition of excellence would be when you get to the point of undeniability, when you can't be, denied what you're. Like if you do something, like I always think of like Tiger Woods, Mike Tyson, you hear it a lot in sports, but those guys were undeniable in their sports. I want to try to be undeniable and just being a good dad, being a good businessman, good friend, just try to be undeniable.
Okay. So that the show's called The Edge of Excellence because you're on the edge of it. It's so hard to be undeniable in all those things. I get some people that come on here and talk about one aspect of life. A lot of people talk about the balance the way you do, family, friendship, work, maybe community, a lot of outer interviews. You're on the outer view. It's undeniable, but we're on the edge of excellence. We're trying to get there. You just started out being a dad, probably takes a little bit of practice. Leave out the yelling. That's my lesson to all those dads out there. If you can never yell, don't yell. So you had a little bit of a path to get here, to get to this definition. I love it. Let's get back to where you were in high school. What was life like in Fredonia, Kansas? What'd you want to do? And how did you end up moving into business?
Yeah, I was a good old American farm boy. I graduated with about 26 kids in my class. The town of Fredonia has like 2,000 people, and it's very small. Everybody knows each other, and I think it keeps you honest. So I was very involved. I was not a 4.0 student by any means, but I had a tendency just to be a yes man all the times. Like I was class president 3 times, did wrestling, did football, did track, and then just tried to join. I think I was in the Rotary Club. I was in, Stuco. Like I just tried to be involved. I wanted to be around people. So, and then, in high school, you're kind of limited job wise in a small town like that. So I was a ranch hand, built fence, helped move cows around, sprayed weeds on a 4-wheeler when it was 104 degrees. And then I think it was my sophomore, junior year, I actually worked at a funeral home. Being 17, 18 years old, that was a pretty crazy experience, just because you kind of got to be serious, my job was mostly like taking care of the facility. Like I was the mower, the weed eater, had to trim the shrubs. But I also got to, help in the actual service aspect of it. I got to go pick up dead bodies at 2 a.m., 2 hours away. Made some pretty good money, as a high school kid. I just liked it because it was unique. Nobody else was. I had one buddy that actually worked with me, and we just thought it was really cool that everybody else was working like hamburger stand or mowing grass, and I was like, yeah, I work at the funeral home.
Yeah. So there's a few things that come out of that, and you don't have to live in a small town to pick this up. So you're any town you could be in. You at a young age decided to be a leader. So you're easygoing dude. You said yes, man. Yeah, easygoing guy. You're interested and interesting. So in your small town, you're developing these leadership values, these communication values. And then you could be in any town, anywhere. And the foundation has to be laid at some point in time and through random jobs. That was my path too, through random jobs. I got fired from a few. I learned how to not get fired. But they're weird jobs you and I had. A lot of people have had. So you go and you're whacking weeds in 140-degree temperature, or you're building houses, or you're digging ditches, or you're doing whatever. You're learning perseverance. You're learning a work ethic. You're working at the funeral home. And interesting what you said, you learn to be serious. And that's a pretty serious job. You're at the front counter of a restaurant. You still got to be somewhat serious. You'll get fired if you're really out of line, but you had to learn to be serious, even more than an office job. You never know what you're going to get, where you're going to get it. You have a variety. Go ahead.
I'll say I remember how I knew this was going to be a unique job, because we were sitting there one day and we had this old Italian dude come in. He was a suit salesman that would outfit like the guys in the office. And Rick, my old boss, brought me in. He's like, hey, you need to pick out a suit. We can't have you wearing that like American Eagle striped shirt anymore. It's atrocious. I said, okay. And I picked out an all black pinstripe suit. I looked like I was in the mob, and it was like my favorite memory. I still actually have that in a box downstairs. My first original suit is oversized. It was way too big for me. And it was, but it was the first moment where I was like, I got to be serious. I'm wearing a suit now. I got to wear a tie. People are relying on me to, help them with the procession. I got to drive the coach car at the beginning of just a bunch of stuff like that was, just a unique experience. People need jobs.
At CollegeWorks, we asked the question, how many years have you worked? So we want 3 or more. First year, you screw everything up. Maybe you get fired. You don't know what you're doing. Second year, you get more serious. You get some skills. Third year, you might even be in a leadership position. So you're out there at a young age, leadership at school, getting a variety of skills, communication skills, people skills through a variety of jobs, learning how to work hard. You go off to college. What'd you do after your first year of college?
After my first year of college, I was an intern my freshman year.
Oh, you were? Okay. So you went straight. So you come in and a lot of people, they don't do that variety of jobs when they're in high school. So they got to do a couple of those when they get to college. But you already had a few years of work, 2 years in the same job. So you come to college and you dive right into a pretty difficult internship. And you wanted to be a teacher. You wanted to be, you like history. I like history. I have a history degree. Do you have a history degree?
Nope.
You have a business degree. You want to be a teacher, you do the CollegeWorks thing, and you learn, maybe I want to do business instead. So let's talk about just for a second what you do now. You're in sales, you're business to consumer sales, you're analyzing foundations and then getting the job sold, the customer's ready, the crew's ready, helping with the production management. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what skills you need and how you developed them in college.
Yeah, it's a great question. So what I do now is I'm a certified field inspector. People call us out to come check out their homes. Sometimes it's a wet basement. Sometimes it's a nasty crawl space. Sometimes it's a large structural problem with their house. It's my job to go out, figure out what's going on, draw a blueprint, measure everything, and then come up with a solution for their problem. Sometimes it's a pretty simple solution. Sometimes it can even be done by the homeowner themselves. But a lot of the time it's something that needs to be taken care of by the professional foundation repair business. And then, so I walk them through it. I show them, hey, this is what we want to do, sell the job. And then I've got to coordinate the job through production. So making sure the foreman gets the job, understands what's going on with it. And obviously customer relations, making sure that the customer is in the know throughout the whole project, making sure that any questions are answered. And to be honest, a lot of this, probably 95% of the skills that I use on a day-to-day basis now came from my intern year at CollegeWorks.
Let me jump in. So you can go into sales. Anybody can go into sales. You've got to start somewhere. There's what I would call easier sales where you got a tangible item, you're selling a product and it's in your hand. There's different forms of marketing. You could do it online. You could do it in person. Then you get into higher levels. Sometimes it's called enterprise sales, usually when it's software devices. So you're in a higher level sale. So bigger ticket item, you need more experience for it. Then you're also on the kind of design and transition side. So sometimes people will just sell and they need to have a high eye. If you've done the DISC test, they don't need to close. So they don't need to be a driver. Then there's people that sell and close. So you're doing both of those. And then there's people that sell and close and then do the transition, help get the product created or the service executed. So you're involved in all the different aspects. And you get your people skills in college doing the CollegeWorks thing. So what was some of the big challenges that you had at the CollegeWorks thing that transitioned directly into, add a zero to the products you were selling at CollegeWorks, your 10X price?
You just got to be able to know how to communicate, because sometimes I go out to a homeowner's house and they have no idea. They're just like, that looks bad because they've got giant cracks in their basement wall or something. And, without having a pretty high, you call it having a high eye, just, what is it? EQ instead of IQ, just your people skills, being able to take their hand and walk them through what's causing this, paint a picture for them, use visual aids, I draw it out sometimes. And then you kind of got to help them understand what the full scope of work looks like, get them bought in. And then show them hey, this is how we would repair it. And I even have to there's a lot of options for repair, a lot of the time. And some of them are Band-Aids, some of them are 3 to 4 year fixes. And then I come in with a permanent solution. So it's, just gotta be able to communicate and read the body language of the homeowner. If they're really freaked out and fanatical, hey, is my house going to fall in? Kind of saying, no, not yet. But we got to do some things here. And then being organized. So with CollegeWorks, I had to generate my own leads most of the time and get referrals and stuff. Now there is a department that sets up those appointments for me. So I've got to be on time, be punctual. Sometimes I'm running 2 or 3 appointments a day. And if I'm not organized, I don't have my ducks in a row, it's something's going to suffer within the process. And, late to an appointment, anything like that really can jam up the process.
You could get fired. And that's why people don't start at the end game of where you're selling things for 20,000, 40,000, 15,000, 55,000. You start earlier and you build on your experience. So back in college, you're just a freshman at college. You take a leap of faith. You do the CollegeWorks thing. You run a painting company. You're doing the sales, probably $5,000 average. You're doing the management of the hiring the crews, managing the crews. You're doing the customer relations. That translates 5 years later, 4 years later, to now what you're doing here. In the middle, you were kind of helping facilitate other people do the CollegeWorks thing. You were a district manager, you were a VP. Were you a co-VP? No, just GM, no. GM, district
GM
manager.
And VP, yeah.
Yeah, so talk about what you were doing there in college and how that translates to what you're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like you were just scaling up every year. So starting out my, podunk little town in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, running I think I ran just shy of a 6-figure business, had 5 employees. The next year ran a team of 12, 15 interns, then general manager year, running a team, and also trying to help the division itself with customer service, helping the struggling interns, stamping them, all that good stuff. And then taking on a really big, exciting leap, which was, jumping into the VP role to where it's now. So, you got to start it from a seed. So go into a new place, meet new people, and having to do the whole process basically from scratch. But this time it's mine. I took a lot of pride in it, and God, I love Texas. I miss it every day. But in how that kind of translated is when I started at my current job, I kind of walked in with almost expecting more responsibility than I was being given, just because of I was so used to, hey, I'm in charge of the meetings. This is what time we want to do it. In charge of, hiring and firing and the day-to-day, looking at numbers. And now all my job is diagnosing problems, selling the product, selling the service, and then facilitating to make sure everybody's happy. It seems it seems too easy now. And if I hadn't went through that experience, those 5 years in CollegeWorks, I don't think I would have been able to just step right into the position and have so much success with it.
So what was your biggest challenge at CollegeWorks? If someone listening to this doing CollegeWorks, most people don't do CollegeWorks that listen to this, but someone is. What was your biggest challenge in the early summer? Because they're in the early summer of any of your years. How'd you get through it, and how do you draw on it today?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I think that was a Joe Norwell question. What was your biggest challenge, or your biggest client problem, or whatever?
Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe. So I had, if you're familiar with the Allman Brothers, they actually lived in Independence, Kansas for a brief period. And I stumbled upon this house. The whole scenario, it's probably like a 30-minute story, but we'll skip ahead. I booked the job, and I'm almost certain it was this couple was like a part of the witness protection program, because they had a crazy East Coast accent, drove multiple crazy souped up Mercedes Benzes in the middle of Independence, Kansas. Just is a rare scenario. Anyway, they had this old plantation style house. It was 3.5 stories, hadn't been painted in 40 years. And it was a big job. It was I can't remember. I think it was $25,000, which accounted for a quarter of my business with one job. It was awesome. And I knew that it was going to be a lot of work, but in the middle of it, it just so happened I saved that house till 3/4 of the way through summer, because I didn't want to do it first, because I needed to get some smaller houses banged out of the way and kind of get the summer started, and saved it for the hottest week of the summer to begin. And just, it was all lead. We had to suit up every day. Great. I had to have Payson Maydew, my DM, come all the way down and help me on the project. Had multiple painters quit in the middle of the job. I was going on weekends to go and try to hire a few new painters and also work on the project myself. And it almost got to the point where I felt like I was overwhelmed. And then, we completed it. There was 2 giant columns. They were 2.5-story columns, as big as, you couldn't hug. It would take 2 of you to hug and touch fingertips, those giant columns on those big houses. And it was hollow. And I remember one day we're up there, I'm on a 28-foot ladder, at the very top of this. I even had a harness on, and we were scraping it. And out of one of the corners, probably 500 red hornets flew out and just started pegging me.
So this is the nightmare. So we'll back up. You got this huge house. You saved it for the middle. Something went wrong. Usually you save the big ones for the middle so you can more easily do it. I think it's your first year doing this. Everybody's quitting on you. So you're hiring people. You're getting stung by bees or hornets. The job finally finishes. You collect money. You make your profit on it. But what's the lesson, and what does this have to do with the Allman Brothers?
Well, that was the house I lived in.
Oh, did you hear them singing? Were they playing any guitars? Did
No,
you hang out
they
with them
sold
at
it.
all?
No, they sold the house, and it was moved into by this more than likely witness protection.
Oh, it really was
family.
a witness protection. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
so the lesson was perseverance, or what?
Yeah, the lesson is whenever I'm having a really terrible day now, I think about that job, and I think about how just that whole process. I was like, I'm 18, it's hot, I'm getting stung, and I remember having just a switch go off, and like probably like 2 weeks before we complete the program, like, you know what? I'm not complaining anymore. I booked the job. It's my responsibility. There's no one else to blame. My DM's not going to save me. My VP is not going to save me. They have their own stuff to do. This is mine. And it turned out the before and after picture, I used that for 4 years after to sell more work. They wrote me a small like novella review that I use in all of my, I even used it in my, when I was applying for my current company. I was like, hey, I did this when I was 18 and they wrote this about me. And I'm just very proud of that. And the clients were awesome. I went back multiple summers after that to check up on them and have lunch with them. And they obviously they took me around. They drove me around in their nice Mercedes. We were cool. We were tight. And I just, now whenever I have a really hard day, like I'm waking up at 4 a.m. because my son's crying, or I've got a crazy busy day and there's not enough hours in the day, I think about that moment that switch went off and said, nope, I've got to be accountable for me and my stuff. And I'm going to go attack it.
You got yourself a callus. You got yourself a work callus. Short-term pain brings long-term gain. So you had a little taste of a nasty day that you draw on. At least it's not this bad. I do warn people sometimes it can get worse. So you come into college. You've developed your people skills. You developed some of the basic work skills. You don't know where you're going. You want to be a teacher. You find CollegeWorks. You get stung a few times, but you start to develop your EQ over the course of these few years. We did the DISC test. We've got an episode on the DISC test. You start to see the value of organization. I seem to remember you started off organized, but I'm sure you saw the people that didn't. If you don't get organized, you're totally screwed. You get stung by bees and taught the lesson of ownership. And sometimes the hard way is the best way. The year ended up great. You had a bad day. Everybody has bad days. My dad told me you'll have bad years. That's what he said when I got married. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, people have bad years, bad weeks, bad days. You realize that you can get through it. Looking back, I mean, there's a few sacrifices in there. What sacrifices did you make when you were young that, you're out getting this experience? There's one of them. You got stung by bees. You could have quit. What sacrifices do you remember that you're really glad that you made?
Well, it kind of depends on what part of the year you're looking at. Early mornings, obviously in the summer, there was absolutely no sleeping in. Cause I would wake up at 5. Usually that included a trip to the paint store. So just becoming an early bird. And I found that the earlier that I woke up, the earlier that I could have my stuff together before the project began that day. And usually things went smoother. During the actual sales season, when I was going home, and generating revenue for my business, you got to sacrifice partying. You always talk about K-State, and they had fake patties. They have a big fake patty celebration every year. And I remember
they have that in a lot of states. You know what? I hate that holiday. It screws up our business every year. Yeah,
it's pretty rad though. Anyway, I remember going to that, and then I was slightly unsober in a bathtub hiding, and I remember having to go home that next morning because I had a full day of estimates, and we did it. We called it early. We called it early that night. Went home, got 2 hours of sleep, and then drove 4.5 hours home, and was at my first door at 8:30 that morning. I was slightly hungover, but that job, I remember that job because it was a 13K job. I went on to go like 3 for 3 that day. So the sacrifice was worth it in my eyes. And I said that I would try to do that more often.
Sometimes you go do that and you don't get that first win. So then you got to dig even deeper. But again, it's practice makes perfect. So, probably nowadays you wouldn't do that. You got a kid, you're up at all sorts of hours. You're about to have another baby. You probably wouldn't do that now, but you learn, hey, I still got responsibilities. I got to get it done. Balance, right? You were always one with integrity. And we didn't talk about values. When you're in high school and you start hanging out with all the people and they're making you the captain and you're doing, I think you said student body, and you're doing all these different sports, it's a small town. You learn how to treat people right. You start to develop your values. How have your values come out in your progress over your career? And then we'll shut it down. This will be my last question.
Values. That's tough. Because now, like being a dad, I've noticed that it's just taking care of my people, whether that's my kids, my wife, my coworkers, because we need to cover and move. Like if I need to help somebody out in a different department, deal with a client problem, or I need them to help me, having that open line of communication. Helping my friends, that was probably one of the best values that I learned just in the CollegeWorks program, because I made a lot of friends. I'm friends with them today. A couple of Tyler was the best man at my wedding. We were interns on the same team. Payson was the best man. Nick Bear was one of my groomsmen. And I still hang out with those guys to this day. I saw Tyler yesterday at BNI. So just the value of making friends, keeping friends, investing time in your friends, and eventually those friends might become business partners. They might become godparents to your kids. It's pretty cool that, we all met each other at a little painting internship in college, and it has transpired to something much, much more than that.
So you figure out how to make friends, figure out how to keep friends, figure out how to treat people. They become part of your value-based integrity, honesty, talk about being on time. I don't know what you would call that. Timeliness. I guess it would be integrity and honesty. These start to ingrain in yourself over time. They show up in your first job. They show up in your second job. You carry the friends. You didn't hang out with the friends that didn't have that. You didn't hang out with the people that didn't have the work ethic that you had, the value of commitment that you had. So you end up developing this friend base that kind of keeps promoting you further and further and further till you get over that edge of excellence, and it's undeniable. Well, Codi, thank you very much for making time today for this. I hope you have a great summer. I'm excited to see the announcement of your new, we don't know if it's a boy or girl, of your new baby. Thank you so much for coming on the Edge of Excellence.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It was a pleasure.